Okay, we ready? This should be fun. Not. Yeah, engineer. Yeah. Additional point to what we were saying a second ago. Um. All right. Here with CNBC is probably going to flag this whole stupid VOD for listening to this, but it's important to listen to. So here.
Now, SpaceX had the contract for Artemis 3. By the way, I love SpaceX. It's an amazing company. The problem is they're behind. They pushed their timelines out, and we're in a race against China. The president and I want to get to the moon in this president's term. So I'm going to open up the contract. I'm going to let other space companies compete with SpaceX, like Blue Origin. And again, whatever one can get us there first to the moon, we're going to take. And if SpaceX is behind, but Blue Origin can do it before them, good on Blue Origin. But by the way, we also might have two companies that can get us back to the moon in 2028. But again, we're not going to wait for one company. We're going to push this forward and win the second space race against the Chinese, get back to the moon, set up a camp, a base, and from there, we're going to figure out how we can actually get to Mars. Now,
So Sean Duffy went on. He's the interim acting administrator of NASA. He went on CNBC today and said that he's opening up the HLS contract, which is the contract to land humans on the moon, the commercial lander component of the Artemis 3 mission. He's opening up the contract for competition after SpaceX won it in a competition in 2021. He's opening it up to Blue Origin and other companies, despite Blue Origin and other companies losing this contract in 2021 to SpaceX. And cites timelines as the reason why he's doing it. No, Spartan, that's not what happened here. Blue Origin already has a contract for a lunar landing system with people for Artemis 5 and 6 under NASA's Sustainable Lunar Development Program. Tag you in actually some cool stuff on the Twitter. I don't get notifications from people tagging me. I don't know why, Creation. Just, yeah. Link it on Discord or something, dude. Couldn't SpaceX get attorneys to have a little chat with somebody over this? Isn't this a case of a little too little too late? So here's the thing, fellas. All right, let me. Guys, the short story here is that this could be good or it could not be good. The only way that this is really a good thing is if SpaceX and NASA decided to amicably open up the HLS contract. Which I'm not entirely sure that that's what's going on here. That's the only real way this makes sense. If SpaceX is looking to divest from the HLS contract, which I don't know. That might be a good idea, but he's not wrong about SpaceX being behind. There were 6 major HLS milestones that were supposed to have been achieved by Q1 of this year, and none of them have been achieved yet. I love SpaceX and what they do, but it's no secret that they're really behind with HLS development now. Yeah, Jake, that's not entirely wrong, but that's not entirely wrong. But dude, and this isn't a slight against you. That's kind of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, they're a little bit behind. No one else is even close. You can cite SpaceX being behind in HLS contracts all you want. You can do that till you're blue in the face. They're still the quickest for making a lander. They're still further ahead than anybody. You know, he said, "Oh, Blue Origin, Blue Origin." Yeah, that's fine, and maybe you could do Blue Origin, but Blue Origin isn't even close. They're contracted to do sustainable lunar. They were contracted for sustainable lunar development missions to happen in 2028, and you want them to go faster. 2028 to 2030 for Artemis 5 and Artemis 6. You want them to go faster. You want Blue Origin to go faster. You think they can go faster than SpaceX at this current particular moment in time. Look, this isn't a slight against Blue. That's not happening. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. That's not happening. It's not happening. You know it and I know it. Like, I like Blue. Their architecture is fantastic. Using multiple New Glenn launches and using cryogenic refueling, on-orbit transfer vehicles, an orbital tug to go between Earth and the Moon. I dig it. Great architecture. Not getting done anytime soon. It's not. Blue hasn't even scaled. They haven't even scaled their rocket yet. Their rocket is not flying on anywhere near a regular schedule. Anywhere near. And it's not going to be running on a regular schedule until maybe the end of next year, maybe a year from now. And that's a very, very liberal estimate. That's being very nice. I highly doubt that. They aimed for 6 launches this year and got nothing. Or 1. And maybe 2 by the end of the year. That's a heck of a miss. Now, I know what people are saying. Well, EJ, SpaceX did the same things. SpaceX is using an entirely different construct of engineering to engineer their rocket. The rapid prototyping, guys, that SpaceX does means you're going to have failed tests. It means there's going to be setbacks. But it also, at the end of the day, means your company is adaptive. You can adapt to the failure and move on. Which means that despite the troubles of Block 2 and the Starship, the Block 2 Starship, SpaceX, now that they've kind of got that problems behind, that's a huge thing. Stuff should start coming hot and heavy. And HLS stuff should start getting engineered pretty quickly. Getting a reliable plumbing system to be able to get orbit insertion is such a huge deal with Starship, and SpaceX is basically on the 5-yard line of getting that right. And once they do, the advancements should be coming hot and heavy even from there, because once you can catch boosters, and you don't even have to reuse ship. Once you can catch boosters and get into orbit reliably with Starship, the SpaceX is designed for high flight rates. Now, Blue could scale to a high flight rate, but their waterfall system means that they're not nearly as rigid, or they're not nearly as flexible in their engineering critical path decisions. You have to, you made a set of goals and you got to go with them. SpaceX's iterative design approach means that your goals are kind of flexible. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have an end goal of making a lander. But also at the same time, to sit here and insinuate that Blue could even potentially do it faster than SpaceX is just coping. That's straight cope. Straight up cope. And fellas, I know people are going to be like, well, I don't like SpaceX. You know, I like Blue Origin. Let's use Blue Origin because I don't like this. Dude, that is setting us up for failure. It is setting us up for failure. Period. Full stop. In fact, this entire decision to reopen up a commercial contracts, you're screwing 2 programs now, not 1, HLS and sustainable lunar development. You are basically you're basically putting in jeopardy not just Artemis 3, Artemis 4, Artemis 5, Artemis 6, and Artemis 7. You are putting all those missions in jeopardy because the 2 companies that are scheduled to do landers with those missions are now going to be pining for Artemis 3. So you're screwing up your sustainable lunar development program in the name of getting there expediently, which is a very, very short-sighted decision. That's not smart. Now, with that all being said, If NASA and the president want to get back to the moon in 2028, I understand that. That's fine. I welcome this goal. That is a bold goal. That is a goal that's a good idea. I really think that. Anybody that thinks that SpaceX isn't going to have their lander ready by 2028 is out of their mind because of their flexible structure from the iterative design. Iterative design, the bigger the failure, the bigger the step forward, especially if you're persistent in your endeavors. And SpaceX has a pretty good track record of doing that over the years, right? Now, if you want, NASA could field their own in-house option. NASA should field their own in-house option. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. I think that's a good idea. They should have an end-to-end architecture that goes from 39B to the surface of the moon and back. Having an in-house solution to go quicker is not a bad idea. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think doing it to the detriment of HLS and SLD is an insanely stupid idea. So with this kind of news, I'm kind of like, you're so close to getting this right, but this is not the way to go about it. This is a bad idea. Remember the whole immensely complex and high risk campaign? One pad was being built at the time. It has now been retired. Yeah, I know, Phil. But to sit there and insinuate that Blue Origin and SpaceX should compete for the lander contract because competition is key here I think that is a really not... This whole leverage the commercial industry for competition and we get the bit. No. That has been said thousands of times over the last 15 years. And where has that gotten us commercially? It's gotten us precisely dick, with the exception of SpaceX themselves. Okay? That is a really... Stop doing that. Sean, stop it. Stop it. You want two commercial companies to compete for a contract to land that is with a competition with a foreign adversary. So you want two companies to compete to be able to build the lander to compete with China. That is the most counterintuitive and ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This type of mission, a mission that has expedient political goals, is what NASA was built for. You don't need commercial competition to get that done. What you do need is NASA to not have this freaking rug pulled out from under their back. Now would be the time to fund NASA and fund a lander that does exactly what NASA wants to do to get there by 2028. We won't do that, though. We won't do that. We're just going to wipe our butt with the commercial contracts and then play that off as some kind of capitalistic victory over freaking China, which is state-run capitalism, which is stupid. That's stupid. This is going to do nothing but complicate an already complicated spaceflight architecture. You want to get there before China, refactor NASA's in-house architecture to not use a commercial lander. That's what you need to do. I'm sorry, that's the only way this is going to get done expediently if you're not going to go with SpaceX. I'm not saying that because I'm some kind of SpaceX fanboy. Okay? SpaceX is the closest to getting their lander being built. Blue's, and you know, we could say whatever we want. Blue can send, Blue, the Mark 1 lander, they're going to send the Mark 1. That's fine. That's awesome. It's good architecture. Mark 1 is supposed to lead into Mark 2. Okay? Mark 2 is the crewed lander. That's the one that can refuel. That's the one that can do all the good stuff that we need to explore the moon sustainably. That is a long ways away. There's no way that on a comparative time scale that is getting done. The Mark II crewed lander, unless Blue wants to make some serious pivots in their company, which once again, they're using waterfall style engineering. It's a very legacy system. It's a very old space way of doing things, interestingly enough, from a new space company. That's all fine. If you want to modify that, if you want to modify your goals, your stakeholder expectations for your vehicle architecture, it is going to require a ridiculous cash infusion from NASA, from private investment, from whatever. There's no way we're going to get out of this, guys, without spending a lot more money to get things done more expediently. And that's what I mean about the elephant in the room. If Sean Duffy and the president want to get there before China does, you need to bump NASA's funding to design a lander that is exactly what NASA needs and have that contracted out to a commercial contractor to build it, not fly it. There are way too many, for an expedient space race, there are way too many commercial stakeholder expectations here in play in our current architecture to get to the surface of the moon to be able to get it done expediently. And that's by design. Remember, we've been touting that we're going to the moon to stay for the last 15 years. Yeah, you've been going to the moon to stay for the last 15 years. There's a problem with that, though. You haven't done that moon part. You kind of have to do that part. You think Jim Bridenstine got in Duffy's ear? I don't know who got in Sean Duffy's ear, David. I know that this is not. I like that the president and Sean Duffy want to get back to the moon in 2028. They say it's because to space race China. That's a good idea to kind of get. This is a good excuse to kick NASA back into gear, because they've been basically sitting there jamming gears for the last 15 years. That rhymed. All right. Opening up the HLS contract is just complicating an already complicated commercial contracting system that we're using. And to do it under some guise, it's so funny to me, because he's saying like, oh, we're going to do it because we're going to let the capital, we're going to let the companies compete with each other. We're going to let them compete with each other. And it's under some guise of that capitalism is good. And that's funny. And don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist too. But honestly, SpaceX already won this contract in 2021, in April of 2021. They already won this. So what you're doing is the opposite of what you're saying. It's the opposite of what you're saying. You reopened a contract that was already awarded a winner. That's not capitalism. That's the opposite of that. It's not. It's not. Also, just another point, just another addendum here to this whole, my entire thoughts re this whole thing that came out. Why are interim NASA administrators making decisions in the critical pathway to go to the moon? This is the second one now. The first one was HLS. Why are interim administrators allowed to make these decisions? No. You're an interim administrator. You were not voted on by the Senate to be there. You do not have the people's will behind you. Absolutely not. Neither did the HLS contract, now that I'm thinking about it. What the hell's going on here? Why are you allowed to make that decision? Absolutely not. I don't like this, guys. I don't like it. I've decided. I don't like it, and I don't have anything against Sean Duffy. I don't mind it. He's trying the best he can. But dude, you are not. This is not a good idea. This is not a good idea. All this is going to do is force the commercial contractors under the gun. You're beating a horse that you can't beat anymore. This is not. It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. All this is going to do is take Blue, who's very rigid in their structure and design and their engineering, and try to make them speed it up. If you're using a waterfall style testing and you have schedule pressure schedule pressure is putting you up against the wall, that's how stuff like Apollo 13 happens. That's how stuff like Apollo 1 happens. That's how stuff like Challenger happens. Now, I know what people are going to say. Well, SpaceX's stuff is blowing up all the time, blah, blah, blah. SpaceX is designed to embrace the chaos. Their whole company is built around that. That's the whole point. The whole point is that the way SpaceX goes about engineering their problems, stuff happens. Stuff blows up. let's do it enough to make sure that we do it so and go fast. Let's blow enough things up to make sure that it won't happen when people are on it. This is not great, guys. I don't feel too good about this decision. I don't think it's smart opening up HLS. Now, once again, I will say that it is a good idea to offer up other solutions other than Starship, because if expediency is your goal, the Blue Moon architecture and the Starship architecture are not useful for what you're trying to do. They are not useful. They are built for sustainability, which I would argue is the real cash prize here, so to speak, in this space race that seems to be unfolding in front of us. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that opening up HLS for Artemis 3 for Blue Origin is a smart decision. I don't think it is. How much you want to bet it's Boeing lobbying behind the scenes to try and get back into Artemis after losing too many contracts? I don't know, Spoiled. There's no doubt that this is a little strange. But once again, two things, and this is what I said during KSP. The first and foremost, is that, look, if you're going to go ahead and say that SpaceX is behind, right? And they might not make it in time. They're behind. They've missed all their goals for this, blah, blah, blah. They're a little bit behind. If you want to go and say that, all right, that's fine and dandy. But that tells me two things. One, you have no idea what SpaceX is about. You don't know about rapid prototyping. You don't know about rapid iteration. You don't know about their agile development. And that's fine. Whatever. Two, you do know about it, and you're obfuscating it on purpose to try because you have an axe to grind. It's one of the two. You either understand it or you don't. I don't like this move. This is a short-sighted decision. I would have been much happier if Sean Duffy went on CNBC today and say, hey, we're shifting our commercial contracts to Artemis 4 and Artemis 5 and Artemis 6 and Artemis 7. Artemis 3, we need a crash course, in-house NASA development for a lander, and go from there. That's what I would have been much happier if you did that, but he's not. You're wiping your tail with all of our commercial sustainability contracts, and you're jeopardizing the sustainability of our entire lunar program because of this. This is a bad decision. And I don't even mind Sean Duffy. I really don't. I don't think this is a good idea. There are way better ways to get back to the moon in 2028 and not screw with Starship or Blue Moon. Lots of Blue Origin talk to have Boeing behind this. There are probably a bunch of people lobbying. And you know what, man? Lobbying is all fine and dandy. That's fine. I get it. It happens in the aerospace industry here. You have an expedient goal. Lobbyists be damned. All right? NASA needs to make the decision. You can't have people lobbying for this, lobbying for that. That's 1997 nonsense. If we did that in the 60s, we wouldn't have been anywhere near the moon in any expedient period of time. How the heck would Duffy announce this when the government is still shut down? I don't know. This isn't a good idea. It's not. You're screwing your long-term goals, but whatever. It's fine. If SpaceX HLS was canceled, I would agree. Telling them one of you better build a working lander on time and a winner is going to play a winner going is the play they seemingly have. There's a lot more at risk in the long run on the moon. Also, Artemis was already funded. I don't know, Geeson. Yeah, I'm not. I don't like that two huge decisions for NASA at this point have been made by interim administrators. I don't like that. Last bit was about the shutdown work stuff. I'm not talking about that. In your opinion, Blue Moon is a better short-term lander than Starship HLS. We should have issued Blue the contract for Artemis 3 through 8 and had SpaceX use Starship to deliver large base modules. WV Kerman, that decision was made in 2021 where an interim administrator made the decision, awarded the contract for HLS. What is this? Throughout this year, Lockheed Martin has been performing significant technical and programmatic analysis for human lunar landers that would provide options to NASA for a safe solution to return humans to the moon as quickly as possible. We've been working with a cross-industry team of companies, and together we are looking forward to addressing Secretary Duffy's request to meet our country's lunar objectives. Bob Benkins said that. VP of Exploration and Technology Strategy at Lockheed in an emailed statement to Jack Kerr's payload. So that's payload space, yeah. What does it mean if Lockheed Martin is developing a lander? Is it good for the Artemis program or not? I don't know. Could be. Lockheed Martin has been performing significant technical and programmatic analysis for human lunar landers. With what? What, is that the same programmatic analysis that made your heat shield not work on your capsule? There's a lot of analysis done there. You still didn't get it right. And once again, this isn't, I'm not trying to say that I don't like Lockheed Martin. I like Lockheed Martin, and I think the Orion is a fine capsule. I think it's actually really good for what it is. We built one in KSP. The purpose of that statement is to elicit this point. The point is that Lockheed, technical and programmatic analysis means dick. What have you sent to the moon? What have you sent into space as other than sat buses? You can do all the programmatic analysis you want. That's fine. I mean, Lockheed did put Orion out by the moon. That's fine. And then they figured out that the heat shield didn't work. You know, you can sit there and say that, oh, we have a lot, we know a lot about doing this. No, nobody does. Nobody does. No one. Maybe except Firefly. Firefly has some experience landing on the moon. Maybe Intuitive Machines. Astrobotic, not yet, but soon. I don't even understand what our current goal is. Do we want to beat China? Do we want to build a colony on the moon, or we want to beat China to flag planting for this century? Any idea why my camera gets stuck in Kerbal on the map? I don't know. Hit M. You got to give Lockheed credit on insight in the Phoenix Mars landing. Yeah, Phil, that's great. I give them all the credit in the world. There's just one problem. That's Mars. That's not the moon. An entirely different entry, descent, and landing architecture. You know, that's great. I give them credit where credit is due. The problem is that's the wrong celestial body, okay? Oh. From SpaceX's point of view, I'm wondering if this is a big deal to them. I've always gotten the impression that Mars was the top priority and the moon was kind of a bonus side quest. It's possible. That's why, that's the other thing, X-Wing. That's what I said at the beginning of this, dude. The only way that this really makes sense is if SpaceX wants to divest from HLS because it's a sideshow. They want to focus on Mars. If SpaceX wants to divest from this, that's all fine and dandy. But let me tell you this, if they want to divest from this, we're not beating them back to the moon without a significant infusion of a lander like cash infusion for a lander program. SpaceX still is the best hope that we have. And I'm not saying that because I'm a SpaceX fanboy. All right? You shouldn't Block 2 should have done better. You guys know it, I know it. Resonant problems. Really? I get it. All right? Like, but also at the same time, you'd be out of your mind to say that the company that's been working the most and has had the longest lunar lander contract is not close to developing said lunar lander. And to insinuate that them being behind is an excuse to open up the contract, right, for other landers who are even more behind is ridiculous to me. China know how to land on the moon. Yeah, it's weird, right? Judging by the tweets from Elon today, he would do it just to show if they can. Yeah, Milch, that suggests that this was not an amicable thing. How far behind is Axiom with the suits? I'd be surprised if those are ready in time. But they have made some pretty good progress. I know it's not likely because SpaceX themselves to be behind this. It all just feels really weird. I just don't want to see companies rushing to get projects out, and when you turn out to be very faulty. Ship watching. That's exactly what I'm thinking. That is an extremely stupid thing to do. To even sit there and insinuate that Blue could get it done faster. No, they couldn't, because them getting it done faster means rushing what they already have. That's not smart. That is not a smart thing to do. It feels like people playing political games with people's lives. Well, Blazemonger, yes and no. Once again, fellas, I want to be very clear. I don't mind the president's plan to get people back to the moon before the Chinese or get there in 2028. You know, I would argue that that's actually Okay, listen, there is some subtlety to this. I would argue that that's actually a good idea. Yes, I know that seems very strange considering what I just said. That is a good idea. That is the type of thing that NASA, this is what NASA is used for. NASA is used in times of, we'll say, political adversity to serve to organize and measure the best of our skills, right? This is what NASA is designed to do. And you have a mission for them that is designed to do that. This is a very clear, very concise deadline. I agree with that. That's a good idea. What's not a good idea is destroying what comes after that just to get there. No. This commercial public-private partnership nonsense isn't going to work if it's not going to work if you want NASA, if you want to leverage the full force of NASA. Okay? NASA needs to set the architecture now. You need to set the landing architecture to get you exactly what you want. That's what's really important. You need another LEM if you want to do this. Problem is that even if we could build a one-to-one scale copy of the LEM and have it be just as functional as it was with the 60s with modern architecture and everything, you can't get that anywhere near the moon. Orion isn't good enough. So now you need to refactor Orion's service module to be able to get into low lunar. And in order to do that, now you have to uprate SLS's upper stage. That's all fine and dandy. I personally think that that's what we should be doing. We should be doing that. And then leave the commercial contracts the way that they are. Just leave them. Just bump every mission down a little bit. If these guys are behind in their timelines by a little, that's fine. So what? I agree, but don't you think the human race should unite to tackle this insane challenge? No, I don't. Is that insane? No. Still, well, this hippie nonsense is not going to work. Oh, we should all come together and go to this big. Yeah, we tried that. We tried doing that with the International Space Station. Where did that get us? You can't do a one space program for humanity when other people don't want to work with you. Should we keep fighting forever? No, should we keep fighting forever? Fighting is a part of it. Fighting is a part of us, dude. You're not getting rid of it. War is a human thing. And to sit here and insinuate that it's not is ridiculous. Fighting each other, the human race will stagnate. I don't think you understand how the works. Oh my goodness. SpaceX making enough on Starlink. If Elon gets mad enough, he'll go away with that. Yeah, I don't know. Once again, the only way this really makes sense is if SpaceX has amicably decided to not do HLS anymore, and I really don't think that that's the case here. Here, I'll show you. I'm pretty sure that that's not the case. Do you think SpaceX will attempt to land on the moon before Artemis 3? They're contractually obligated to, Trey. The first New Glenn launch was a test payload, not a paying customer. Yeah, I'm aware of this. I'm just reading chat. Give me a second. So both you say we can compete without fighting and threatening the planet with nuclear war. I feel like it's better to work together on our tiny rock. Yeah, of course. That's great. That's a great ideology in theory, but the truth of the matter is, dude, and you might not want to hear this, and that's fine. It's okay, but it's the truth. The closest we've gotten to world peace is in basically the last 70 years. Do you know why? Because everybody has guns or weapons that can kill everyone, every living being on this planet. That has fostered the most peaceful period in human history. If you have a problem with that, sure, I understand. That's kind of messed up, but that's the only time we've even gotten remotely close. Even remotely close. So this, why don't we all just work together nonsense? No, that ship has sailed. That's gone. Could have done this in the 90s. Could have done it in the 2000s. Could have done it last decade. We could have done it. We didn't. Could have done this every decade since Apollo. Yep. I think Jim Bridenstine's comment on orbital refueling is what helped spark this doubt on HLS. Maybe. I understand that's spoiled. The whole reason why I'm listening and responding to people that are like, well, we should make peace is because, guys, that the time to do that was gone. That ship sailed already. Look, man, the 2020s are different. This isn't the same thing. You're in a Cold War again, whether you like it or not. Is it wrong to want world cooperation? No, it's not wrong to want world cooperation. To say that that's our only way forward in space is ridiculous. Ideologically optimistic at best. What does Eric Berger have to say on the subject? Oh boy, I'm sure this is going to be great. So we just doom spiral with Cold Wars. If you call going to the moon and planting the flag 6 times on the moon doom spiraling, yeah, I'll take more of that. Thank you very much. The fastest road to war is pacifism. Correct. Corrected, Mana. That's right. NASA Acting Administrator Sean Duffy made 2 television appearances on Monday morning in which this is Eric Berger's article. Let's see what Eric has to say. Shook up the agency's plans to return humans to the moon. Speaking on Fox News, where the Secretary of Transportation frequently appears in his acting role as NASA chief. It was on CNBC, Eric. Where the Secretary of Transportation frequently appears in his acting role as NASA chief. You just had to say that, huh? You just had to say, okay. Hey, Duffy said SpaceX has fallen behind in its efforts to develop the Starship vehicle as a lunar lander. Duffy also indirectly acknowledged that NASA's projected target of a 2027 crewed lunar landing is no longer achievable. He did Fox as well. Okay. Accordingly, he said he intended to expand the competition to develop a lander capable of carrying humans down to the moon from lunar orbit and back. What kind of lunar orbit? Eric said he appeared on two. What is the point of mentioning that he goes on Fox News regularly when he spoke on two networks? What is the point of that, chat? Why would you mention that as a matter of factly? That is not pertinent to subject matter unless you have an axe to grind. Duffy also indirectly acknowledged that NASA's projected target of a 2027 crewed lunar landing is no longer achievable. Accordingly, he said he intended to expand the competition to develop a lander capable of carrying humans down to the moon from lunar orbit and back. They're behind schedule, and so the president wants to make sure that we beat the Chinese. He wants to get there in his term, so I'm in the process of opening that contract up. I think we'll see companies like Blue Origin get involved and maybe others. We're going to have a space race in regard to American companies competing to see who can actually lead us back to the moon. There are a couple of significant takeaways from his interview. First is the public acknowledgement by a senior NASA official that the space agency's current timeline of a 2027 landing is completely untenable. And secondly, the timing of Duffy's public appearances on Monday morning seems tailored to influence a fierce behind-the-scenes battle to hold on to the NASA leadership position. SpaceX won a contract from NASA worth $2.9 billion in April of 2021 to develop and modify its ambitious Starship rocket to serve as a human landing system. That's correct. This rocket would work in concert with NASA's Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft to get humans from Earth to the lunar surface and back. 2 years later, Blue Origin, a rocket company founded by Jeff Bezos, won a second contract worth $3.4 billion to develop a second lunar lander. Duffy is correct that SpaceX is moving slower than anticipated. The company still must cross several technical hurdles before it can provide landing services to NASA. In their funded contracts for reusable landers, SpaceX and Blue Origin must refuel their vehicles in low Earth orbit, something which has never been done before on a large scale. When Duffy says companies like Blue may get involved, he's not referring to the existing contract in which Blue Origin will not deliver a ready-to-go lander until the 2030s. Rather, he's almost certainly referring to the plan developed by Blue that uses multiple Mark I landers, a small vehicle originally designed for cargo only. Ars reported on this new lunar architecture 3 weeks ago, which company engineers have been quietly developing. This plan would not require in-space refueling, and the Mark I vehicle is nearing its debut flight early next year. That looks great, Chaz. You're cooking, man. Real good stuff. Duffy also cites maybe others getting involved. This refers to a third option. In recent weeks, officials from traditional space companies have been telling Duffy and the Chief of Staff at the Department of Transportation, Pete Meacham, that they can build an Apollo lunar module-like lander within 30 months. Amit Kishtriya, I can't say his name, Samir Nainanaja. Okay? NASA's associate administrator favors this government-led approach. I agree with him. That's not a bad idea. You shouldn't do it to the detriment of our commercial program. On Monday, a statement to Ars, a Lockheed Martin official confirmed that the company was ready if NASA called upon them. Yep, there's the thing that we saw. Throughout this year, Lockheed Martin has been performing significant technical and programmatic analysis for human lunar landers that would provide options to NASA for a safe solution to return humans to the moon as quickly as possible. We've been working with a cross-industry team of companies, and together we are looking forward to address Sean Duffy's request to meet our country's lunar objectives. NASA would not easily be able to rip up its existing HLS contracts with Space and Blue Origin, as especially with the former, much of the funding has already been awarded for milestone payments. Rather, Duffy would likely have to find new funding from Congress. And it would not be cheap. This NASA analysis from 2017 estimates that a cost-plus sole-source lander would cost 20 to 30 billion, or nearly 10 times what it awarded to SpaceX in 2021. Kshatriya, thank you, Hotbox. SpaceX founder Elon Musk responded to Duffy's comments, seems to relish the challenge posed by industry competitors. SpaceX is moving like lightning compared to the rest of the space industry. Moreover, Starship will end up doing the whole moon mission, mark my words. The timing. Duffy's remarks on television on Monday, although significant for the broader space community, also seemed intended for an audience of what? For the president. Okay, yeah. Trump was under the impression that Duffy would use this time to shore up NASA's leadership while also looking for a permanent chief of the space agency. However, Duffy appears to have not paid more than lip service to finding a successor. Since late summer, there has been a groundswell of support for Isaacman in the White House and among some members in Congress. The billionaire has met with Trump several times at both the White House and Mar-a-Lago, and sources reported that the two have a good rapport. There's been some momentum towards the president renominating Isaacman, with Trump potentially making a decision soon. Duffy's TV appearances on Monday morning appear to be part of an effort to forestall this momentum by showing Trump he's actually working towards a lunar lander during his second term, which ends in January of 2029. Duffy's appear to enjoy the limelight that comes from leading NASA. In the future, one source said Duffy wants to be the president. The NASA position has afforded him greater visibility, including television appearances, to expand his profile in a positive way. He doesn't want to give up the job. A Republican advisor to the White House told ours that it's good that Duffy's moved beyond his rhetoric about NASA beating China to the moon and looking for creative tactics to land there. But this person said that the mandate from the Trump administration is to dominate the emerging commercial space industry, not hand out large cost-plus contracts. Interesting. Duffy hasn't implemented any of the strategic reforms of Artemis that the president proposed this spring. He has a perfect opportunity during the current shutdown, but there is no sign of any real reform under his leadership. Instead, Duffy's being co-opted by the deep state at NASA. Oh my God. Why? What? I'm tired, boss. Guys, I've said my piece. I said my piece. I said what I said, and I wouldn't change a thing. The thing is that if you want to get back to the moon quicker, you need less stakeholders involved. Less stakeholders involved mean a NASA in-house program. Eric Berger doesn't want a NASA in-house program. I don't know what he wants from that article. It's really hard to say. I mean, that was all over the place with stuff. That is the quickest way to do it. It's the quickest way to do it. It's the quickest way to leverage the industry to do it. I mean, you guys might not like hearing that. That's the quickest way if you want to do it any faster. However, with all that being said, I do think SpaceX will be ready. I think SpaceX will be ready. Maybe not in 2027, but in 2028. Absolutely. I've said that 2028 is basically when Starship's going to be good to go. Like, good to go. Like, missions to Mars, good to go. You shouldn't be able to tell what he wants. That was the closest to pure journalism he's been in a while. To insinuate that Sean Duffy is being co-opted by NASA deep state is the closest to pure journalism, Hellfish? Brother, you need your head examined. Holy crap. Did you listen to what I did? Did you listen to that? Dude, that's what he said. That's what it said. That's what it said. What do you mean? No, I said that it was the closest. Yeah. Yeah, I figured you might do it. Oh, no, it was the closest. Okay. Yeah, Fluffy, I saw it too. I know what you mean. Wasn't that a quote? Not the writer saying that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes, it's a quote from a source anonymously. With that all being said, you still wrote the article, you still edited it and published it, and decided to put that in there. And I'm not saying that Eric's sources are bad. Usually his sources are actually pretty right on. I'm not, like his sources are pretty good. Kind of official sources are left that don't use the words deep state. Yeah, it's precisely, Gaw. Yeah. I don't know, dudes. This whole thing stinks to high heaven, to be honest. And I think it's worth knowing what kind of language White House advisors are using, if only to highlight the absurdity. This feels unproductive. Could we not talk about other things? Maybe there's a lack of topics. A deep dive. This is all people have been wanting to talk about Erudite for the past 5 hours that I've been streaming, dude. Night and Terry's. I don't. You guys not. And I don't think people are ready to hear that. Never mind. I won't say anything. Sure, his reporting is fine. The sources are fine. Sure, it's all good. Guys, I don't like this decision. I don't like opening up. I don't like the precedent that gets set for opening up a commercial contract that was already awarded a clear winner in 2021. That's a really stupid thing to do. It's a terrible precedent to set. Now, let's just talk about that for a second. Let me give you guys a little bit of background. That's because, I mean, clearly people don't understand what's going on here. Look, SpaceX was in a competition with two other providers, the national team, which is Blue, Northrop Grumman, Draper, and Lockheed Martin, right? They were in a national team. The national team proposed a $6 billion lander, and Dynetics, another company, proposed a lander for HLS for $4 billion. SpaceX bid Starship on the human landing system contract for $2.9 billion. So we had three competitors, one of them at $6 billion, one of them at $4 billion, and one of them at $3 billion. Okay. The HLS program was underfunded by Congress. Surprise! It was underfunded by Congress. And because it was underfunded by Congress, NASA really only had enough money to pick one of those providers. $6 billion and $4 billion were out of the scope. They only were given enough money to fund HLS with Starship. So they awarded Starship a contract, a winning contract in 2021. Now, once again, I don't necessarily mind wanting to explore other solutions to Starship. That's fine. I get it. Starship is overbuilt for task and purpose, especially for a sustainable program. It absolutely is. And I'm not saying that to denigrate SpaceX. All right? Being able to put 100 tons on the moon is not sustainable exploration per NASA's scope. Okay? And this is the problem with using commercial contractors. When you use commercial contractors, NASA just says, hey, we need a lander. Okay? And people propose landers, and NASA picks one. They picked one because they were budgetarily constrained, so they picked one that can land 100 tons on the lunar surface. That is taking a little bit of time to make. You'd think landing a 100-ton lander on the moon, or 100 tons of payload to the moon, is probably going to take a second, right? Is that fair? But SpaceX did win this contract. They won it. They won it in April of 2021. They won the contract. Taking this contract and saying, oh, wait, no, never mind. SpaceX didn't win it. They didn't win because they're behind. Let's reopen the competition is an insanely stupid precedent to set in its own regard. That is really, really stupid. Why? Why is that a stupid thing? Well, what's stopping any interim NASA administrator in the future to just pull the contract when they don't like it? Oh, you're behind. You missed it by a week. Nope. Pulling the contract. Competition is open. Competition's reopened. You do not open up a settled contract with a clear winner that was picked by NASA. That is a terrible precedent to set for public-private partnerships. You know what that's going to do? That's going to make no one want to work with NASA in the future. This is why I've been saying it's a good idea to have your in-house program. Because an in-house program, while costing a lot of money, is going to have NASA denote your architecture, and commercial companies figure out whether they can make it or not. They just build the vehicle. NASA operates it. With commercial, you build the vehicle, you outsource all the architecture, right? And NASA doesn't even operate it. They use it as a taxi. It's buying your own car versus taking a taxi. There are benefits to doing one over the other, but people don't commute in a damn taxi cab. Okay? Well, first of all, they'd use Uber, but you get the idea. Or Lyft or whatever, or take the train or a bike or literally anything but a taxi, but you get the idea. But in this particular case, that would probably be your best way of doing this. The reason why is tampering with the commercial contracts at this point is a very stupid thing to do. You're setting up a terrible precedent in the future, especially if NASA wants to sustainably explore the moon with commercial partners. No one's going to want to work with NASA if they're just going to pull a rug out from under you. Wasn't funding delayed over a year because Bezos sued when he didn't win, correct? The truth of the matter is that every aerospace project never gets done on time. Everyone overpromises because you can't promise the scope of a project where you don't know what the scope is. This is why when we were playing Kerbal, I said it's very important to understand exactly what your vehicle needs to do and go from there. In this particular case, we have a very clear and fundamental understanding of what this vehicle is supposed to do. It's supposed to get people to the surface of the moon before China. That's a very clear and concise stakeholder expectation, which is why I don't necessarily mind it. That's smart. That's actually good. That gives you a good stakeholder expectation to start from, and you can extrapolate contract milestones and engineering milestones from there. Totally fine. Totally doable. That's totally doable, but you're going to need money to do it. Don't forget to mention Boeing got kicked out for insider information with the original bids. Yeah, they were trying to get it done expediently, and they got caught. And yeah, conflict of interest. Changing a plan when you think you have a better one is bad enough. Changing it when you have no plan is just dumb. Correct. Reopening the contract is wrong and cannot be justified. Yes, that's it. I think that's my biggest problem with this. And not only are you reopening the contract, but you're reopening it to people that lost the contract. I think that's, now that I've had some time to stew on this and talk through it with you guys and kind of explain it, I think that's what's pissing me off the most. You are setting up, in the name of expediency, an awful precedent. That's terrible. And to do it against SpaceX is even more hilarious because they're the only ones that understand expediency in the space program over the last 2 decades. It's really funny that you'd cite them as the example for being behind when you have something like Starliner, which is contracted for 6 missions and has flown a half of one. Actually, 7 crewed flights to the space station and has flown 1/2 of a flight to the space station. They're basically saying that winning a contract doesn't matter. Now, Reaver, one could make the argument here. That if you don't achieve the milestones, they're going to pull the rug out from under you, right? If you're taking your sweet time, right, and you're not holding up your end of the bargain, then yeah, I think the interesting thing is that there's also a precedent there. But context really matters in this. If you're going to throw the book at everybody and say that, no, if you fall behind in your contracts, we're going to pull the program, NASA would have no spacecraft. Nothing, not even SLS. You would have nothing. Because the truth of the matter is that everything takes more time than you think it's going to take. It's aerospace. That happens. SpaceX broke the contract by not meeting timing. Yeah, one man, this is why it's a highly contextual thing, because if you're just going to implement blanket, oh, you missed your deadlines, Starliner, gone. Dream Chaser, gone. Dragon, gone. The space shuttle would be failure by this metric. SLS is a horrible failure. Orion's a horrible failure by this metric. That's why this is a stupid precedent to set, dude. This is really, that's being very colorblind to history and setting up a terrible precedent. Now, once again, if NASA wants to have a way to pull out of contracts that where the contractor isn't holding up their end of the bargain, that's fine. There's a way to do this, fellas. There's a way to do it. You know what it is? Not do public-private partnerships. The way to do it is to do it in-house. Just saying. Axiom, gone. Yep. NASA already pulled out of Dream Chaser. They were way behind. NASA should have pulled out of Dream Chaser in 2022. Isn't there a legally binding contract? How can NASA just pull the contract without being dragged into court in an instant? They can't, Edo can, which is probably why Elon's on the phone with SpaceX's lawyers right now. I can't confirm that, sorry. Don't you always say that NASA needs to hold contractors accountable? I absolutely do, but context in this statement matters a lot, Pop. Do you think holding SpaceX accountable for Starship in the context of racing to the moon is wise at this point in time? Honestly, answer me. Do you think it is? You think now is the time to pull that with the one contractor that NASA works with on a routine basis that delivers stuff on a pretty routine basis? If it speeds up the process, then why not? Okay, Pop, let's talk through this. What is it going to speed up? Talk to me. What do you think? What is it going to speed up? Is it possible we have more money coming in than going out for space, so we just keep giving money away so that with it, whether they succeed or fail, we keep them open for business so we don't have to start from scratch? Zeal, yeah, maybe, but I'd prefer it if we were going to do that to actually send stuff up into space. But EJ, you often said that a company needs to be held accountable for not meeting deadlines and there needs to be consequences if the milestones are not met. What I think is interesting is they went from 0 to 100 with this. Okay, I'm not demonstrating. I think that I'm not conveying the subtle the not subtlety. I'm not okay, guys. Let me explain. Yes, NASA should hold people accountable. That's fine and dandy. Holding SpaceX accountable and saying they're behind schedule on your lander right now is the most tone deaf time to do this. Why? Yes, SpaceX is behind. Yes, that's not okay. If you promise you're going to do something, you should do it. However, you have to understand, this is what I mean by context, fellas. If it's something like Dream Chaser going to the ISS, yeah, that's stupid. But you have other ways to get to the ISS. So it's not, NASA being able to throw them away like a parking ticket is not that big of a deal. That would hold them accountable. But it wouldn't hurt NASA as a whole. You know what I mean? The subtlety here is very important. Saying that SpaceX is behind and opening up other options at this point in time means that at the very base, someone's going to have to start a lander program. And once again, another commercial company is going to have to start a lander program. So where's that money coming from? What lander are we using? You said you could design one in 30 months. That's fine. My point is that if you do that with SpaceX right now, it's tone deaf to the situation because nobody has a lander that is going to get done in time. SpaceX is still the closest one, whether you guys like it or not. I know people don't want to hear that. I'm not telling you this because I'm some Elon stan or something. I'm telling you this because I'm looking at the architecture. They're the closest. I'm sorry. I know people don't want to. That's an inconvenient truth for a lot of people that don't like SpaceX. That's fine. It's likely that Starship has many unknowns, and even if other contractors will take time, SpaceX may take longer. No, they. What? Why are you so entirely sure? I mean, dude, Blue has to do the same thing. Blue has to do the same thing. They have all the similar problems. They have to refuel. Yes, it's with less launches, but you have to refuel. You have to refuel your lander. You have transfer vehicles. You have sun shields that you have to build out. They don't even have a rocket that can routinely get into space. Twilight, what does that say? The way I see it, it's posturing by the administrator to light a fire under SpaceX feet to get this fast track to be a feather in their cap for the next election. Maybe. That's a good... Dude, Twilight, I like that. That's not bad. That's not a bad... You might be right. Hucklux, and this is one of the reasons why you harp on not putting all of our eggs in one basket. We can boot SpaceX out without cutting off our nose to spite our face. We can't boot SpaceX out without cutting off our nose to spite our face, even if it was there was a more reasonable response. Because nobody's even close. SpaceX is by far and away the closest. You got to remember. Their lander is being tested. It was just tested on Flight 11. They've done the most amount of in-flight testing for a lander. Once again, it's an inconvenient truth. People somehow don't want to hear this. Once Starship gets into orbit, and it will, in the next maybe 5 months, all the other stuff is going to come at you hot and heavy. Why is that? SpaceX already knows how to rendezvous. They've done that. They've done it 11 times with the space station, with crew on board. Actually, 12 times with crew on board. They've done it, let's see, 33 times uncrewed. They have a lot of experience with rendezvous proximity operations, and they were taught by NASA. I don't think that's a big deal. Cryogenic fluid transfer. Do you think a company that can fuel 5,000 tons of commodities onto a rocket in less than an hour is going to have plumbing problems in space? There's not a chance, dude. No way. These dude, the biggest one is developing out a new launch vehicle that happens to be your lander. And SpaceX is almost done doing that. All the other stuff is going to fall into place very, very fast now. And that's due to the iterative design element that SpaceX brings to the table. Under Pop's logic, that means that Blue Moon is getting consequences. Yeah, perhaps. How many flights before Starship is human rated? It doesn't matter in the Artemis's architecture, dude. That's not a big deal because Orion is what moves people into space on SLS. Doesn't have to be human rated, dude. Just the lander. That's it. Ascent has no big deal. Nobody was riding up in the LEM on a Saturn V. I mean, the toilet might back up. SpaceX need to learn. Yeah, Geeson, you're not wrong. SpaceX needs to learn how to make a better toilet. While we know SpaceX is somewhat deep into HLS, we don't know exactly how deep and what testing they have done. Now, outdoorsmen, everybody keeps saying that. Just because you haven't seen a lot of HLS specified equipment doesn't mean that SpaceX isn't working on it. The biggest thing, though, that we have seen that it has a direct lineage to HLS is Starship itself. And we've seen those work pretty dang well the past 11 times. With the exception of 7, 8, and 9. We don't talk about that. I still say of Congress and NASA series about a base on the moon where there are prepositioned supplies for HABs and other things. Oh, that's right. There are none. Bingo, Shogun, which is why I say that meddling around with Blue and SpaceX and trying to pit them against each other out of some competition and innovation thing is an entirely idiotic thing to do. That all that's going to do is screw up your SLD architecture and maybe get you a Starship lander, maybe relatively quicker. That's correct, Ultimator. And once again, I'm not trying to be a jerk to SpaceX or Blue or whatever. Blue seems to be a very rigid company. And don't get me wrong, I'm not 100% sure on that. If anybody wants to correct me on that, let me know. Blue seems to be very rigid, slow and steady, step by step, ferociously. All right, means you're going slow and steady, but you attack each step pretty pretty ferociously. It's the company's motto, Gratitim Ferociter, right? It very much seems like they are very rigid in what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it. They're using a waterfall style of testing, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Waterfall style testing doesn't offer much flexibility in terms of design changes. It doesn't. And I don't care what anybody says, that's the truth. It will be hard for Blue to pivot and move their deadlines forward. If anybody at that company thinks they can do that relatively quickly, you're out of your mind. You're not going to. You have a rigid systems engineering architecture. It doesn't allow for much flexibility on the fly. And that is not a slight by any means. Waterfall testing works. New Glenn is a very good case in point, along with New Shepard. Very good case in points as to benefits for waterfall testing. It's them trying to retool and trying to pivot to make some type of crude, non-refuelable Mark I architecture is no, just go with the original plan. That's not going to work. That's going to require a significant amount of resources that at the very least are going to screw the Mark II design, right? They're going to screw your Blue Moon Mark II design, and then we don't get sustainable lunar development. Is there any worse outcome than the old guard getting the contract? I wouldn't mind if the old guard got the contract no good. I don't have a problem with that. If Lockheed wants to build a lander, I don't have a problem with that. It's Lockheed Martin. They're pretty damn good at building aerospace equipment. You guys might not like hearing that, but they are. However, I don't want them to operate it. If Lockheed Martin or a traditional contractor, Boeing or Northrop Grumman or whoever wants to make a lander, NASA has to denote the architectural requirements, and it needs to be done. The design needs to be done in-house. Have Amit design it. I don't care. Legacy contractors don't work very well with this commercial public-private partnership thing. And you could say whatever you want, but look at Starliner. Look at Dream Chaser. The only one that, other than SpaceX, that has showed any premise of getting this even remotely done right and showing that a legacy contractor can make public-private partnerships work is Northrop Grumman with Cygnus. But what rocket does that launch on right now? Oh, it launches on Falcon 9. If we want to do it the old-fashioned way, I don't have a problem with that. I really, honestly and truly don't. You should not do that to the detriment of your commercial sustainable development contracts. That is a very stupid decision. I am saying that with the utmost confidence, to the best of my ability. And I have no axe to grind here, but getting to the moon faster than everybody else. But also being sustainable after that. You don't want to change your contracts, especially with companies that have rigid architectures in their systems engineering. It is Falcon, you're saying it's a stupid idea to land HLS with humans on board on the second attempt. Cargo vehicles have to go first. What is the first attempt but not a cargo vehicle? Well, NASA just landed and plant a flag. NASA seems to want to do two things. They want to land, beat China back to the moon, get there first, and then set up a base after that. That's what I'm saying, dudes. I don't mind. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. I don't mind that the president wants to get there in 2027, 2028. I don't mind. That's a good idea. That's a good thing. NASA needs to have a fire lit under their tail. But doing that to the detriment of your best possible sustainable or your two best possible sustainable options is really stupid. Hey, Capybaro, 99-month resub. I got 99 problems, but an EJ sub ain't one. Hey, sorry I'm late to the party. I got off work. Now, S, you've said that 4 times now in chat. In the times between the first time you said it and the last time you said it, you could have just figured out what we were talking about. That's very strange that you'd say it 4 times over the course of, like, 30 minutes. It's getting too political, and that's never good for science. Now, Natch, I don't necessarily think that either. Once again, the president is... You can say whatever you want about the president. You say you don't like him. I mean, people over the weekend certainly demonstrated that they didn't. But for every person that doesn't like him, there's a person that does. You know what I mean? We're not trying to make it about that, dude. What I am trying to tell you guys about space, I don't mind that the president wants to get in there in 2028. That is an expedient, bold goal for NASA to be able to do. But NASA needs to do it. If you're going to choose the expedient option, public-private partnerships are not a good idea. You just black boxed your entire lander. It has to be done in-house if you want to get there with an expedient goal. Let NASA do its thing. You've set the right deadline for them. Let them do it. See what I'm saying, Natch? I don't, you know what, dudes? The president certainly isn't above criticism by any means. However, it's a good goal. That's a good goal. That's an excuse for NASA to get back to doing what they do best. Organize and measure the best of our skills, not for profit, but for to measure the best of our skills. To quote Kennedy, that's right. This is a great excuse to do that. Doing it to the detriment of your commercial public-private partnerships is not smart. That's a really stupid idea, man. What would in-house do different now? What do you mean, what would in-house do different now? A two-stage hypergolic lander with Orion's uprated service module will get you there in no time. And that is not a difficult thing to change. It's a Kennedy goal, I get it. I'm just sad that the whole thing is to the detriment of all the science side of NASA. Natch, that sucks. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that's a good thing. Just destroying the science mission, gutting the science mission directorate is a good thing. However, it's always darkest before the dawn. A sustainable lunar program will bring you boatloads of scientific research and understanding. Boatloads. There will be so much science and data and experiments to process from a sustainable lunar base that you won't even remember this happening. And that, once again, I know that's going to piss some people off saying that. I get it. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen, guys. I don't have an axe to grind here. My only axe to grind here is to freaking go further in space. That's it. That's all. Jared Isaacman has been sucking up to the president. Do you think it's worth it? What do I mean? Do I think it's worth it? Everybody's been saying he's been sucking up to the president, Amadeo, and they're saying it in a way like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. I can't believe he's doing that. Guys, there's a distinct possibility that he just believes that. There is a distinct possibility that that's what he just believes. I don't understand why people would just write that off. I think people are struggling with the fact that a person that they really like and admire is saying things that they don't like. Not everybody's perfect, dudes. And people come up with some rationalization of kissing the president's tail. People come up with some weird rationalization of kissing the president's tail because, this person that I look up to can't like a person that I don't like. It's some weird mental gymnastics that I don't understand. But the Occam's razor states that he probably believes some of that stuff, and it's not just butt kissing. But I don't think people understand that. So they come up with some crazy thing like, he's kissing his butt because he actually doesn't like him. He's just kissing his butt. Like, there's a possibility that he just believes in stuff that you don't like. It's a possibility. However much of a hard reality to cope with, right? People say stuff I don't like all the time. He could not care at all about the president, but want the job. You really think that was? God, that's true. Amadeo, you guys really think that?
And I'm not just asking you to say yes or no. Ponder it. Seriously ponder it. Yes, I don't care about my boss's ideals and I still like my job. Fair point. Maybe he is kissing butts or not. Who cares? All that really matters is if the science is getting done. Science should be insulated from politics. Even though a lot of people are getting mad at his views. Well, Amadeo, consider what I said when you see people getting angry. There's a distinct possibility that people are just coming up with rationalizations to make up for the fact that Jared Isaacman, who's a pretty good dude, is saying stuff that they don't like. It's possible. I've seen crazier things happen. Everything will be okay in the end. Natch will be fine, dude. We'll be fine. I mean, I think at this point, pitting, reopening the HLS contract is not going to get us any more expediently to the moon. But Twilight, you did have a good point. You did have a good point, dude. You think that Sean Duffy might be saying this as posturing to be like SpaceX? What the hell? They might be using it as leverage for them to make progress on HLS. It wouldn't be the first time. Jim Bridenstine did that a couple of times. He definitely did. To light some fires. I think that, believe it or not, that's probably what's going on, dude. You like sports teams I despise, and yet I'm still here. Go Pats. Now, Wisp, you want to really know where I'm at with football? Like, I don't trust it. The Patriots have a superbly easy schedule. And everybody's going to be glazing Drake May. Don't get me wrong, Drake May is amazing and the Patriots are really good, right? We're going to have if we keep playing like this, we're going to have an amazing record, but unless we're like shutting out every single team, we will get to the playoffs and we will get railed in the playoffs by a team that actually is good. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that as a Patriots fan. Okay? 10 minutes. I don't need a reminder of the time. Thank you very much. I like Drake May. I think Drake May is good. Do you honestly think that SpaceX is not already pushing as fast as possible? Ruan, that's been my argument this entire time. To sit here and insinuate that SpaceX is dragging their feet is ludicrous. Like, you are absolutely out of your gourd. Like, two things. One, you don't understand what SpaceX is doing. Two, you do understand what SpaceX is doing, and you're obfuscating that on purpose. That's the only thing I could think of. To sit, and that's what I mean about contextually holding their, like, it's contextual when NASA should hold contractors accountable. To sit here and insinuate that SpaceX is dragging their feet is absurd. That's absurd at best. And to sit here and insinuate that anybody else has a solution that could get done potentially quicker that isn't an in-house two-stage hypergolic lander is absurd as well. Wisp, I'm a Browns fan. I'm just jealous, really. Hey, didn't the Browns beat down on... Hold on, that was a good game. I watched that game. You beat down on the Dolphins yesterday. That was hilarious. You kicked the snot out of Miami so much their coach in the press conference couldn't speak straight. Wisp, that's hilarious. I was rooting for you guys the whole time. Sorry, Fluffy. I know you're here. Sorry, man. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. Please don't kill me. I'm saying, you're in the division. What am I supposed to do? Just my 2 cents. Well, your 2 cents now. Chris, you have a funny feeling that there may be some companies out there, there may be some other companies, startup aerospace company, in the future. Watch, they lose capability to get crew to space. Chris, I'm begging you, for the love of God, dude, sentences, please. Complete sentences, man. I'm sorry. I don't mean to grammar Nazi you, dude. I can't, I don't know what the hell you're trying to say. On the topic of people we look up to, in my honest opinion, We should never put anybody up on a pedestal. It's unfair to the person at best having to live up to your idealized fiction that you come up with, that the idealized fiction that people come up with for you. Yeah, believe me, parasocial relationships. Oh, I know. It seriously hinders honesty and needs scrutiny that are at the minimum is important for you to grow as people. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Tough love, dude. Tough love's a thing. Okay, I'm sorry for writing this again. No problem, Mills. A lot of you guys are talking right now. This is a good discussion, dudes, for what it's worth. Sorry, I'm just getting a little passionate about it, you know? I was pissed a little bit earlier in the day where I couldn't collect my words. Now I'm good. Like, all right, Ellen, see you. I'm sorry for writing this again. Why don't people get that that HLS is basically the Mars Depot variant, but the landing engine's at the top? They need to make all this stuff anyway for Mars. So by SpaceX Mars timeline, HLS should be ready in 2028. Gwen Shotwell and Elon have both said independently that it will be ready on time. I believe them. Guys, I believe them. From here on out, it's not that much more to get this right, dudes. Trying to lighten things. For us in Italy, all this new era in U.S. politics has an ironic, to say the least, trait. We warn you the world leaders. We've been fortunate enough to have Berlusconi around. You didn't listen. Why do you never listen? Alex, I mean, Berlusconi kind of sucked, but what are you going to do, dude? Anyway, Cannon Potter, I think Sunday's game will be a good test for the Patriots. Doesn't matter the outcome, they need to play well. Cannon, if we're not blowing every team out of the water like 50-0 at this point, we will get railed in the playoffs. The next like 8 teams that the Patriots have to play are like they're all 1-5, 0-5, 1-6, 2-6. There's, dude, if we're a real Super Bowl contender, every one of these games should be a complete and utter disgusting absolute blowout. And I'm not saying that to glaze the Patriots. I'm saying that because I don't trust this. They just were mediocre for 3 games, and now Drake May and everybody's firing on all cylinders, and it looks like the Patriots from 2007. Nah, son, don't trust that. That ended real well, didn't it? Am I wrong? Bring back Bettis. What? Jerome Bettis? The bus? I like the bus, man. I know I'm a Patriots fan. I'm not supposed to like the Steelers, but Bettis, that Steelers team. Oh man, that team was fire. Personally, think HLS is too ambitious to jump to right off the bat. They should have started with something smaller before transitioning to HLS. Starship HLS is over designed for task rocket drone. That was a big deal. I had one of my buddies who has a master's in aerospace engineering. He said that when I covered the HLS contract awarding for Space News in 2021. He said that this is not, there are bad precedents here because NASA asked for a 5-ton lander to the surface of the moon and SpaceX bid a 100-ton lander to the moon, and NASA was like, yeah, that's fine. So I think there is some merit to what you're saying. Chiefs will beat them in the playoffs. The Chiefs have gotten off to a very rough start as well, but they've been playing better as of late. The Bus and Palomalu were unstoppable. Dude, Pennsylvania, like I said, I got a lot of respect for that Steelers team. That was a good freaking team. Roethlisberger at the helm in the mid-2000s. Gosh, dang, they were good. That was good football, man. Coach Cowher? Hell yeah, dude. I'm saying that as a Patriots fan, all right? There's not many other football teams that I like. I like that Steelers team. That Steelers team got grit. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you're from Pittsburgh. Chiefs have their famous trick in refs they trust. See, RJ, you can say that. As a Patriots fan, I can't say that. I can't say that, man. I'm sorry. I can't. I want to play that card, but I really can't, man. you kid. That's you. That's you saying that. I can't say nothing. I'll just sit here with the choking Cardinals. Seriously, like I said, man, I don't trust the Patriots. I don't trust them. I really don't. And it's weird for me to say that. I don't trust it, bro. I don't trust it. They just were garbage. Their execution was terrible, and all of a sudden they're just executing like what, dude? I don't trust it. I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall, dude. You know, like you being a Cards fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about, dude. It's like 1 second, it's like Kyler Murray, the freaking best. Like, this is awesome. We're gonna be what the hell just happened? Like, I don't trust it, man. I hope I'm wrong. You're not wrong. I don't trust it either, but I don't expect much from this year. I just want a better team. I think we've gotten that canon. And once again, I'm not trying to talk bad on my Patriots, dude, but you got an easy schedule, man. You got an easy schedule. Detroit had an easy schedule last year. Look what happened when they got to the playoffs. They got embarrassed. That's all I'm saying, man. You ain't sorry. I guess I'm okay with that. Fluffy, something's wrong with McDaniels. I don't know what that dude's deal is. But anyway, yeah. Jays or Mariners tonight. I want the Jays to win, but if the Mariners win, that would be pretty cool. They've been playing pretty damn good baseball, and Cal Raleig's the real deal, so I can't really be upset. He's the real deal. He ain't no pretender. Nah, son. Why would you want the Jays to win? Well, one, they beat the Yankees. Two, they have a potential to eliminate the team that made me stay up till 1:30 in the morning watching a 15-inning baseball game. And they beat the Tigers. But more that second one. That second one is the biggest one. My sleep schedule has been screwed since. That was a great baseball game, but also piss off, you know. Sure, Trey, what's your last? Do you believe SpaceX will attempt to land on the moon crewed before NASA does? I don't think so, Trey. I think it all comes down to Block 3 that opens up all the doors. Block 3 goes well, then I trust. If Block 3 goes well, then I trust the lunar lander in 2027. I think Block 3 is there as ways to eliminate all the problems and mitigations that they had with Block 2, dude. They're going to do it. Do you think the Jays or the Mariners have a better chance over the Dodgers?
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
On a visit to the zoo, I noticed one cage with nothing but a baguette inside. It was bred in captivity.
As a Raiders fan, I get my hopes up for them to just suck hard. I thought Pete Carroll was going to do good, Enzo, but that game was not great, dude. Neither do if Ohtani is playing like he is. Serious, I said that during the wild card games. No one's going to beat the Dodgers, dude. Dude, Ohtani hit a home run the other day that went out of Dodger Stadium. That's 560 feet. Dude, that ball went into low Earth orbit. And I'm not even like... Yayo, perhaps? That was what I was thinking, Fluffy. Did you see the way he was like, because, like, I'm like, bro, you've been... How many bananas is that? I don't know, man. Human lives are at stake. I would rather make sure we don't have an incident like Soyuz 1, right? Too quick and not... Yeah, that's what I mean. Pitting them against each other, outdoorsmen, is just forcing SpaceX and Blue to condense their timelines. SpaceX might be able to deal with the flexibility of shifting deadlines. I'm not sure that Blue can. And once again, I'd prefer... And I'm not trying to talk bad about Blue. Like, everybody, like... I like their rigid waterfall style testing. It is a good hedge it's a good hedge against your bets for SpaceX's iterative design. We're getting the best of both worlds here, dudes. Why would we screw that up? Just to get there a little faster? You want to get there faster? Bring it in-house with NASA. Spend the money. Stop dilly-dallying around, spend the money, get the right talent, and go. But don't do it to the detriment of Starship or Blue. I like Blue's architecture. I think Blue's architecture is fantastic. The orbital transfer tug with the sun shield, brilliant. I want more of that. Just make 500 of those, please. But to screw with the steps that get us to that, I don't think that's smart. So I think you're right, Outdoorsman. I think that's great. Hit me like Mike Vrabel. I trust him. I think that's right, man. This is the subject matter right here, dude. Joe, what's that? The Wall Street Journal. Oh, archived. Power struggle over who will run NASA is turning ugly. And guys, people that are trying to frame this as some kind of power struggle between Sean Duffy and Jared Isaacman are I don't think that is. I think that's overplayed. Seriously, Eric made a big deal out of it in his article, and you know, like, there's no doubt that this is a thing, but okay. Let me put it to you like this. If Sean Duffy wants the job as NASA administrator, all right, if he wants that job, okay, there is no constitutional way for him to just become the NASA administrator. If he wants that nomination for NASA administrator, he's got to work for it, and he's got to work for just that, a nomination. And then he needs to be cross-checked by the Senate, and he needs Ed Markey yelling at him about Elon Musk or something in a Senate confirmation meeting. Just like Rook did. He's got to go through the same freaking paces, all right? If he wants that job, you go through the proper channels. You don't just sit there because you've been appointed interim, right? And sit there and be like, well, I'm interim, so I should be the NASA administrator. No. How about you go manage the air traffic controllers, pal? If you want the NASA job, you have to go through a Senate confirmation meeting, okay? Now, if somebody wants to make the argument that the administrator of NASA should be a cabinet employee, I think there's an argument there. This is not the time to implement that. But that is not a bad idea. Having the administrator of NASA be part of the president's cabinet. I think that's actually a good idea if you really want my honest opinion. Interim administrators are why we're in this problem in the first place. I would like to add, just as a matter of fact, an interim administrator was in charge of sending Challenger up on January 28th, 1986. Just saying. Oh, I just brought that up as a matter of fact, Lee. That is entirely no way a reflection on the interim acting administrator at the time, but also an interim acting administrator is what made the decision in 2021 to appoint HLS to the contract for the lunar lander for Artemis in the first place. I even said I would, what did I say? I think I said I would snort milk on stream if Starship got picked. I ended up never doing it. I bitched out. I'm sorry. You did not know that. Me neither. Yes, that's because the NASA administrator job needs a Senate confirmation. You get 6 months of stagnation pretty much every presidential term. If somebody wants to make the argument that the NASA administrator position, especially as NASA expands more into space, should be a cabinet position, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's smart, actually. And I don't think the president meant to do that. I'm pretty sure he just said, "Oh crap, I need somebody to run NASA." Secretary of Transportation, you do it. You know, snort milk. Yeah, no. I bitched out. I'm not doing that. I've made a fool of myself plenty of times on stream, guys. You don't. I don't need to make it worse. Okay. I've crashed out like 4 times just in this stream alone. Okay. So you mean by his nomination? Shanky, that no, you just did the meme. Hold on. You just did the meme. You just did the meme. You did the meme. You just did the meme. No, I mean, certainly that's not without its trade-offs, right? Obviously. Yeah, I mean, that kind of opens it up to that, but that might not be necessarily a bad thing. Would you rather that, or would you rather 6 months of stagnation at NASA? At any rate, that moon flight was cool. We got another one coming tomorrow. You're missing football. I know. Sorry for the repost, but I think it's huge that the Starship Lunar Lander mock-up is in the NBL. Blackness, do you know about the mystery tent? Also, SLS is stacked, by the way. Sean Duffy posted pictures of it. Do you guys not know about the mystery tent? Being a NASA administrator is punishment right now because you have less opportunities to change things than any SpaceX engineer. Bingo. The mystery tent at McGregor. The McGregor tent. Would you snort milk if Starship had pad fall back on Flight 12 EJ? No. You shouldn't be snorting anything, Amadeo. There's a reason why I wimped out on that one, because snorting things is not good for you. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's milk, illicit substances, that's bad for you. That is bad for your nose. Don't do it. And I thought the reason why I wimped out isn't because I didn't want to do it. It's because it's setting an extraordinarily bad example for kids that watch the stream. This is why I've been trying to swear less, even though it's been very difficult today. I've been trying to swear less, and I've been trying to not drink as much, because it's a very bad example. But I want to snort fresh air. Yeah. Do that. Yeah, you should do that. You should do more of that breathing thing. Sometimes I think that people forget how to breathe. I'm trying, Jax. You need to channel your inner British and call everyone a grumpy crumpet. I don't want to do that, zombie. I'm from the northeast part of the United States. We have... I'm trying as hard as I can to not revert to my native tongue, so to speak. We have other ways of expressing our disdain with people. We have other ways of doing that. And it's not calling somebody a grumpy crumpet, man. Is it Chad's fault you have that bald spot? It's probably from wearing hats too much, Panta. Indeed you do. Yeah, Vamp, you know. Oh, yeah. The mystery tent. Yeah. Do you guys like the mystery tent? Niall reposted this from NSF. You can see the mystery tent. You have called someone a pine cone before? That's the most Canadian thing I've ever heard, Creation. How close do you think someone could get to McGregor? I know some people who live near there. History. I don't know how close you want to get to McGregor. Make sure you're complying with the law to a T. In Texas, you can get shot for trespassing on people's property. Make sure you are make sure you have permission to be where you're going to be if you're trying to get close to McGregor. Because if you're on some cattle farmer's farm and he finds you, he can shoot you. That's one of those tents that gets always built around alien technology in X-Files. What's the latest speculation on the mystery tent? Guys, they're testing thrusters. They're testing thrusters for HLS in there, dudes. Like, I can't prove it, but they're testing thrusters for HLS in there. You just have an HLS sized tent that just starts outgassing things. You gotten your fair share of warning shots. Don't try that crap in Texas. That ain't a thing. You're trying to get close to McGregor, make sure you have permission to be there and make sure you're complying fully with local law. Don't screw around. It's not a party tent, it's a farty tent. There's clearly a Stargate inside. We get it, tent, you vape. See, Kraken, you made another batch of your chicken parm, as you call it, getting a lot faster. Instead of 2 hours, it's down to 1 hour. Nice. All was good with the last Starlink launch, but it was weird for a bit. I saw that. There was a Falcon doubleheader yesterday. Yeah. And the second one out of Vandenberg, I watched it. I was like, that's a little short. But apparently, it's just funky telemetry. Now, Phil, if I were SpaceX, I'd really want to know why you had funky telemetry. But, yeah. You could really troll the tent watchers by setting up rave lights in there. I think that's a good idea. Any prediction on the Starship lunar landing thrusters? Upscaled Super Draco or something different? It's probably... Didn't a Firefly upper stage blew up? Firefly's first stage for Alpha Flight 7 exploded on the test stand a couple of weeks ago. Who is Niall? He has me blocked on X. He's just another space nerd. He works for Marcus House. Niall's good people. I don't know why he has you blocked, Andrew. You must have said something to piss him off. No kidding, though. More than half of Americans don't breathe correctly because they don't want to look fat when their belly expands. It prevents fully inflating the bottoms of your lungs where it's optimized to absorb O2. Oxygen deprivation, that explains a lot about our society as a whole. We live in a society, Aqualex. I don't know if you knew that. I just noticed Sun God is trending in sport. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. He's very good. Yes, his name's Amon-Ra. Is by the name after his sun god. Fun fact, he grew up in Germany and speaks fluent German. So you have a guy with a name that plays for an American football team that's fluent in German. That's named Amon-Ra after an Egyptian sun god. All right. I'll be honest with you guys. During Space News, I saw that Robert Plant was trending, and my heart stopped for a second. My heart stopped for a second. But anyway, the mystery tent, guys. SpaceX working on HLS stuff at McGregor. Now, in terms of these thrusters, if it was me, I'd use gas. I'd use gaseous methane and gaseous oxygen to make a gas thruster system because Starship already has tons of ullage propellants, right? Think about it. You're coming in for a landing. Your Raptors are firing. Then the Raptors shut off. What do you have? What do you have a lot of? You have a lot of ullage propellants because the autogenous pressurization, right? Make the thrusters run off that. Can 2025 just not, dude? I saw that and I was like, oh no, please no, But yeah, everything's fine. He's just trending. I had to search it up too. Turns out he released a new album. Oh, that's cool. We have seen the gas thrusters once on the side of Starship, right? They built those in, then switched to the vent thrusters. That's correct. So there's some research there, John. Especially since he can't do his Led Zeppelin voice anymore. Yeah. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm gonna go watch the Lions game. So there's no after hours here tonight. Long story short, opening up the HLS contract, which is an awarded contract, is an awful precedent, and I don't think it'll get us any faster to the moon. If we want to figure out a more expedient way to get to the moon, to Eric Berger's detriment, I think a cost-plus in-house solution with a legacy contractor is probably the quickest way to do it. And I could hear Eric Berger somewhere, like he's sitting eating dinner at the dinner table going, what? Oh, what was that? Who just said that? No, don't do that. They'd never get funding for that. You sure? Peek at the Mariners game. It hasn't started yet. It starts in an hour. Cheers, man. Thanks for the debate. Always nice to hear you. Sure. No problem. Yeah, Ship. There you go. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for Space News. That basically dominated Space News today. Sorry if I said some things that you don't like. I'm just trying to give my most objective opinion on the subject and explain what's going on. I hope you guys enjoyed the Space and Rocket review. I will see you guys all tomorrow at noontime. We're going to get that crewed mission in. Yeah, I think we're ready. Oh, we got to do a hopper mission first. So go watch guys get handsy with balls. That's Pigskins. Thank you very much. I'm going to go watch the game with Bree. Go Lions. Let's see what happens. If you can you cover the H3 launch? H3 launch? When's that happening? I don't see that on the books. Oval ball game, no feet required. If you think American football doesn't require you to use your feet, you're very much mistaken. HTVX. Yeah, but that's not, that says net October 2025 on next space flight. But yeah, I mean, if it's at the right time, I'll cover it. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow at noontime. We'll play more KSP, and I think maybe we'll do longer KSP tomorrow. I want to do long KSP tomorrow. We'll do Space News again on Wednesday. Let's just play KSP tomorrow. Yeah, we got a lot of missions we got to do. We got to make some forward progress. Yeah, probably. There you go. That's cool. Good stuff. Oh, they postponed it. Yeah, I got you. Postponed due to weather. Yep. Even bigger Space News happens. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow at noontime. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night, okay?